Morning, everyone. Today is the 5th day of Tammuz, and we're going to learn chapter 12 in Shar HaYichud V'Ha'emunah. And in this chapter, we're going to give you a quick overview. We're on page 73 in the Chayenu. The overview is as follows. The final chapter of this section of Tanya describes how each letter, yesterday we were talking about the letters, how even the shapes are important. And each letter of the divine creative utterance is a particular channel of energy that we receive from Hashem. Even the letter's written shape represents its unique function. So we kind of jumped ahead of the game here and gave away a little bit of today's learning. Consequently, a word forms a collective energy. So you have the letter itself, and then you have the word that brings down an energy. The particulars of each created entity mirror the divine force which brought it about. Very good days, chapter 12 in Shar HaYichud V'Ha'emunah. The letters that constitute the Asara Mamari says that Alter Rebbe explained the 10 utterances are different energies and flows of godly divine light, which are united with Hashem. Therefore, although they're just called letters, that's what we call them. We call them letters. But they're able to serve as vehicles for creating the wisdom and intellect of created beings. So they're not like letters the way we speak, or the way we see them, or the way we think they are. They're completely spiritual, powerful entities. These letters are specifically 22 manners in which Hashem chose to create the world. Accordingly, as the Rebbe notes, this chapter that we're going to learn today underscores the fact that all created beings and all their different multiplicities are in fact no more than 22 distinct forms of Hashem's godly energy and creation. Rak shabruim mischalkim lemineihem b'chlolos u'protos. Although there are 22 letters, and they could all, how do you say when you mix up the letters and you make a different order? You could do different combinations. There's a better word for it. You could transpose what? And I didn't hear you. Permutations. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so interchangeable permutations and all these things for the creatures are divided into categories, both in general, meaning human or animal, and particular, when it comes to animals, there are all these different types of animals. Within fish, there are all these different types of fish. Within the earth, within the flower kingdom, within the trees, there's so many different types of trees, right? This multitude of this different, all these different divisions come about how? Right? All that has to happen is the letters have to be substituted and transposed, as explained above. So there are different combinations. I don't know what the calculation is. You could probably ask Google, but if you have 5 numbers, you know how you have these door combinations? What's the total number of combinations you could have in those doors? You think, yeah, there's just 5 numbers. How many could there be? Larry, look it up on Google. If you have 5 numbers, how many different combinations could there be? 5 numbers, how many different combinations? So Larry's going to have the number in a minute, but imagine you have 22 letters. How many different combinations can there be? So when letters are combined in one way, one kind of creature is created. Again, these letters are letters of creation that Hashem used for the 10 utterances, each having a different power to create. So look what he writes here. He writes combinations, substitutions, transpositions of these letters. There's different combinations. And also you could change, sometimes you could change an ayin for an aleph, aleph for an ayin. We can't do that, but they sure could. Maybe we can do it also sometimes, but sometimes there is a vav, sometimes there isn't a vav in the same word. So there's different ways to utilize the letters. Each letter is a flow from an individual particular life force and power. When many letters, meaning many powerful combinations, form a word, and in addition to the numerous kinds of powers and life forces which issue forth according to the numbers of letters in the word, there's an additional transcending all, in addition, transcending all the particular powers, the flow of a higher power and a general life force, which contains and is equivalent to all the various individual powers and life forces of the letters that transcends them all. You got the number left? 120 combinations with 5 letters? That's it? I'm surprised. So technically, if you remember which code you did, you pretty much open any code as long as you have enough time. There's only 120. So you have the individual power of each letter, and then you have the collective power that's generated by each word, and then you have that which unites them and combines them in order to grant power and life force to the world, which was created in both its general and particular aspects, meaning with its individual creatures being through this word. There's a little footnote here that says, as every single one of the 22 letters of the Torah is a flow of an individual particular life force and power, which does not flow through any other letter. The even the shape of the letter is very distinct and specific. You could, some of the letters look similar, right? The chaf and the base. You send your mezuzah in to be checked, and it's a little bit rounded instead of straight on the bottom, and it looks like a chaf and not a base. They're going to tell you either they're going to be able to fix it, or sometimes they can't fix it, right? If all the letters are rounded and you're like, well, what's the big deal? It looks pretty similar. I know what the Shema is. No, the letters are very specific on how they're written and how they're shaped. Hamoira al tziyur, hamshacha, v'yiskalos ha'or v'chayis ha'kerches ha'nigla v'nimshach v'yizu. So the distinct shape indicates the pattern of the flow and manifestation of the light and life force and power which is revealed and flows through this letter. It's amazing. We learned my mortem about this, how the hay, how it's open on the bottom and the energy comes forth. Some letters are open on top. We didn't even get to the shin, but think about it, how it has 3 kavim. We talked about the aleph yesterday. So we learn on how the energy of Hashem flows and is revealed from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and from his will and wisdom, his ratzon and his chachma. So returning to the text now, the Rebbe adds so that we will be able to understand the degree to which the divine unity may be perceived in relation to the created beings of this world, and that the 7 heavens and all the celestial hosts were created and live and exist from the solitary utterance of Yehirakia, let there be a firmament. So let's take, for example, through the words of let there be a firmament, Yehirakia, the 7 heavens and all their components of celestial hosts were created. So it's a similar, the Tanya could have brought the thing, Nasa Adam Mitzalmenu, there should be man created in my image. One man. From there's all the different colors, all the different creeds. We all look different. We look completely different, right? But it came from this one creation of man. But we're talking about here about the firmament. Our sages said that the firmament, the shchakim, in which stands millstone that grind the man for the tzaddikim. Okay, just like we had man in the desert, so the tzaddikim have this supposed man. I don't know exactly how that works. Zavul shaboy Yerushalayim Beis Hamikdash u'mizbeach v'chulu. The firmament called Zavul, in which stand the heavenly Yerushalayim and the Beis Hamikdash and the mizbeach. Mekan sheba yitzrais sheleg v'yitzrais barad, and the firmament called Machain, in which there are stores of snow and stores of hail, waiting there ready to come down whenever when it snows. Each of the 7 firmaments thus has its general nature. The fact that it is a firmament as well as its individual aspect as exemplified above. Sheklolois harakim nivra v'chaim v'kayamim v'chlolos tevis elu shavemaimi hirakia. So we have all the individual aspects, the rain, the hail, the snow, the different, what did we say before? The 7 heavens, the Mon, the Yerushalayim, the Beis HaMikdash. But then you have just Yehirakia, that everything was created in the heavens. So in general terms, their existence as heaven results from the comprehensive illumination called Yehirakia. But prote habiruim shebezayin rakiyim nivra kol prote mehem v'chai v'kayam be'ezay tzeda v'oisei satevis elu oi kilufeyen musmureseyen shein kfi b'chinas chayus hanivra prote ha'u. Each individual created being. So there's the general, and then there's the individual in the 7 heavens, was created and lives and exists by virtue of a combination of the letters and the substitutions and transpositions. That's the word I was looking for. Transpositions. These combinations, substitutions, and transpositions being according to the quality of the life force of that particular creature. Every change and a combination is an intermixing and interweaving of the powers and life force in different form. For example, when we've used this previously, earlier in the Tanya, when you take the word Evan, you can name Evan, right? You take the word Evan, which means stone, Aleph Vez Nun, in that particular order, and you comprise the word Evan, which is the same life force of a stone. When, however, these same letters are transposed, you can make a different word. Each letter in the combination, the way it's stacked, the way it's laid out, dominates and is the essential force in the created being. So, for example, Aleph in this particular case is the first word of the letter. First letter of the word. And it's the dominating force of the created being, the created item that bears its name. While others, when you have other letters, so here the Aleph represents Gevura. And that's why a rock is hard and unmoving and unchanged. And other letters, you have other things that represent it. And it could be more from what did it say here? Other letters and forces contained within the word are subordinate to it. So even though you have a base, the Torah starts with base. Base is the beginning of the word bracha. But the word Evan starts with an Aleph. So it has the Gvura approach, or blessing, or energy, whatever you want to call it. And thereby, when you have the different combinations, a new thing is created, and it may have a certain energy that gives it its character based on the words and letters, and based on the letters and which letter it starts with. And likewise to the substitutions of letters or the transpositions. For example, not only is the order of the letter changed, but an Aleph can be substituted for an Ayin at times. Nivroim, Riyos, Chadoshes, Pechuse, Hamayla, Be'erech, Hanivroim, Atzmon. New creatures are created that are of lower levels than the created beings from the original letters themselves. Okay, gets a little complicated here when we start to talk about the particulars, but every Hebrew letter is another expression of godly energy. Every Hebrew name and every Hebrew word is a sign of another type of divine expression. And once we intermingle the letters, then there's an energy for the multifaceted creation. This goes to show when we're supposed to learn and daven, we don't just say the words. You look inside, because the words and the letters themselves, the way they're formulated, have very particular meaning, have strong meaning, bring down major divine energy and brachas. Okay, that's it for today, Chavra. We will see you tomorrow.